that was our peak. At the peak of the amount of troops in Vietnam was 550,000 that we had in South Vietnam. 550, over 500,000 guys. And then after July of '69, we began to slowly drop that number as we started handing over stuff to the other side, to the South Vietnamese, and slowly backing our way out. By 1970, the Secretary of State is beginning to negotiate with the North Vietnamese foreign minister to try to end the war diplomatically. There's obviously some more fighting going on, but they come to an agreement in January 1973.
That's it.
They come to a ceasefire. The North promises to stop attacking the South. The Viet Cong promises to stop attacking the South on the agreement that the United States and its allies will leave South Vietnam. So in January of '73, last U.S. troops leave South Vietnam under the ceasefire. The U.S. POWs that are being held in North Vietnam are released. Some of those guys have been in prison for upwards of 7 years. One of them was in there for 7 years. They're released, and our part of the war is over in terms of participation. We did not say, though, that we couldn't give supplies to South Vietnam. The ceasefire, can you guess how long this is going to last? As soon as the U.S. and its allies, South Koreans, and all those guys, leave, it only takes a few more months before somebody starts shooting at each other. And the war starts up again by the summer of '73. But now, it's South Vietnam on its own. Now, to be fair, South Vietnam was literally one of the most heavily armed countries on the planet. They had so much equipment, all this U.S. stuff, and other countries left stuff behind, but they had to do the fight. And it didn't go so well for South Vietnam. They continued to fight until the 30th of April, 1975. That's the last day South Vietnam existed. On that day, all that was left of the country by that time was the city of Saigon, the capital, still holding out. And on that day, communist troops attacked, and by late afternoon, there were tanks, communist tanks rolling into the U.S. Embassy, rolling into the president's palace, and so on, and South Vietnam didn't exist. People got out in that last month. U.S. troops came back into South Vietnam to guard the U.S. Embassy and to get people out. People who worked for us or who were married to soldiers in the war, U.S. soldiers in the war, or they worked for the CIA or something like that, where if they were captured by the communists, they'd be killed. And there's people who got out literally on that day. Years ago, I had a student in my History 1 class who got out on that day. This was back a good decade plus ago now. She got out when she was 20, and she had nothing. She had no money. She had no connections. She was trying to get on the helicopter. What happened is these helicopters would land on the highest building of the U.S. Embassy, and then people would go up this ladder to get onto the helicopter. Or the helicopter would land in the grass down in the embassy, and they'd load people in. And there were priority numbers and so on. Certain people got in first and so on, what their connections were to the U.S. government. And this woman had gotten over the wall and into the embassy grounds. She was trying to get on the helicopter to get out. And the helicopter started taking off, and she jumped up and grabbed the skin and grabbed it with her legs and her arms and hold on. She had nothing, all she had was the clothes on her back. And she hung on to the skid. Now this helicopter had to fly out over enemy territory and out to the ocean to land on an aircraft carrier. That's about a 3-hour flight. Shit's being shot at you and stuff like this, and this poor woman's hanging on. By the time she got out there to the aircraft carrier, it took 4 sailors to get her off. Because they had to leave the helicopter hovering about 4 or 5 feet above the aircraft carrier, and then 4 sailors had to come out, each one was grabbing an arm and a leg to peel her off, and she was not going to let go. They got her off, then they could land the helicopter, everybody else got. She goes, and that's how I got out of Vietnam.
That's weird.
Hanging on with the skid. She lives here in San Jose. There's a lot of people who could, if you just ask around the community, who will remember that day. You know, even in South, the Vietnamese American community here, it's not exactly a good day. It's usually a sad day. And it's going to happen tomorrow in a couple of minutes.
Oh, right there.
So if you have Indian friends and stuff, you'll see that they sometimes, you know, just not that happy. You know, because it's the last day of South Vietnam. And of course, you know which flag is the South Vietnamese flag. And it ain't that one with the star. Right? It's the yellow flag with the 3 red stripes. That's the flag of South Vietnam. You try to fly the other flag in here, in San Jose, no, they'll probably be found dead on the road somewhere. No. Since 1975, Vietnam is unified. One country. Communist. They renamed Saigon to Ho Chi Minh City. But you ask anybody who lives in the United States, what's the name of the city? Saigon. For a long time, the United States had no diplomatic relationship with Vietnam. Only in the late 90s, I think, is when we finally set up an embassy again in Hanoi. But for a long time, we were talking. They were enemies. I considered them an enemy state. But we finally kind of patched that up. You can actually now fly a plane from LA to Ho Chi Minh City. There's a flight that will take you there. But it used to be no. If you wanted to get to Vietnam, you had to fly like to China or something like that. We didn't talk. We were like our Asian people. For a while, they're on the wish list. They're not so much in here. So this being a U.S. history class, what's the effects of the war here on us? Let's look at, well, I have domestic and foreign, so I can kind of work my way back and forth. Well, let's work domestic first. We'll look at that stuff. This war, 58,000 U.S. dead in the war. America. The numbers are different for Vietnam. The number, the grand total for Vietnam is about 3 million that died in the war. But 58,000 U.S. dead. They came back, you know. And to give you a sense of those numbers, the Korean War, we lost 54,000. In World War I, we lost 116,000. World War II, 400,000. The Gulf War, 91, 150. How about Iraq? Iraq War, about 4,500. How about Afghanistan? About 2,900 last night. Just to give you a sense. It produced the second largest veteran population so far. 8.7 million veterans of the Vietnam War, American veterans. Why? Because of that rotation. You only went there for 1 year, so it created a huge number of veterans. There are, in World War II, there were 16 million World War II veterans. American veterans of World War II. I mean, they're obviously not alive today, all of them are alive, but at the end of the war, that's how many we had. At the end of the Vietnam War, we had 8.7 million Vietnam veterans. How many veterans of Iraq and Afghanistan? I think the number is about 2 million. To give you a sense of how many people are out there. And if you think about the effect on these people, this is when we actually diagnose PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, as a psychological disorder. Comes out of the Vietnam War. I think I mentioned what we called it before, right?
Battle
fatigue. Battle fatigue in World War II. We called it shell shock after World War I, and after the Civil War, we called it the heebie-jeebies. But that's what PTSD. There were so many people that came back. Psychologists said this is not just something weird. there's something really going on psychologically. It is now a diagnosable psychological condition, right? And you don't have to be a combat veteran to have it. You can just be a veteran of violence of any kind and get PTSD. And it's not how much violence you had. And it doesn't even have to be violence upon you. It could be a violence upon somebody else, or a family member, or something like that. A loved one, it was still effect. And the amount of the effect varies and so on, and it's not how much the violence was, but how long it was. Every time it will deal with it different. Just to give you a sense. But that, you can say that's an effect. What else do I have? The average age of a soldier in Vietnam was 19 and a half. That he went into Vietnam somewhere in his mid-18, maybe around his 19th birthday on average, and left Vietnam at age 20. You could have gone there, fought, come back, and you still can't vote or drink. Because voting age is 21 at that time. Drinking age depended upon the state. And some of them were already at 21. One effect then, we're looking at domestic effects here, is Congress passed an amendment to the Constitution lowering the voting age to 18. They did this in 1971. Purely on the logic that in Vietnam you could go and die for your country at age 19 and never had the chance to vote against the bastards who sent you there in the first place. And even when you came back, you still couldn't vote. You weren't old enough. Statistically, I'm saying. So the average age of a soldier was 19 and a half in Vietnam. That didn't seem right. And so they lowered the voting age to 18. So now I'm putting a guilt trip on you. If you are less than 21 but over 18, did you register to vote yet? You guys are all looking at me with blank stares. Okay, a few of you did. Just now I'm going to make you feel guilty. 58,000 guys died so that you could have that 18-year-old vote. Go register. Even if you don't know what the hell you're voting for, okay, go vote. But at least be registered to do it. And if you are informed, do it. Why do you think politicians ignore you guys? Because you don't vote. If you started voting, they'd listen to you. You know, so who do they cater to?
Old people.
Old people. Because those people are sitting in care homes, they're going, oh, it's voting time. Let's make a whole day of it. Yeah. Right? They got nothing else to do. Shit, they're going to go vote, right? They bring in buses and shit. They load all these old folks in with the walkers, and they go, even if it takes all day. What the hell? I voted. Yeah, that was a good day. Right? You know how old folks are. Every day's the same. I need to see my grandson today. So they get up at 6 to get ready. Yeah. This is only like 2 hours of visit, but it's a whole day, right? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. See? Voting for them is a big deal. And so the politicians cater to them. They'll vote. You guys? Shit. No, I got Call of Duty to play, man. Fuck that. That's what I got to listen to. So if you did register, good for you. Okay? Both my sons, when they turned 18, I gave them 2 things in their birthday card. A registration card to register to vote, and a registration card to register for the draft. And they both vote. I voted. My first vote, I was 18, registered. First vote I made was for governor of California. Here's the weird part. I voted for Jerry Brown. The first time around. I just gave away my age. But the lower voting age.